Hello Facebook, welcome back to Easy Weeknight Cooking, and tonight we are doing a wonderful holiday morning frittata. Now this can be done, seriously, do it the night before and just kind of warm it up Christmas morning, or go ahead and put everything together and bake it Christmas morning. You do not need to do this in the hustle and bustle, all that excitement with the kids waking you up at 6 a.m. and mom, it's Christmas, right? You know, all you parents out there, you've experienced this. I know you have. I experienced it from the young angle. So anyway, when you pop on, go ahead and leave us a comment and tell us you're here. Do me a favor, tell us where you're actually watching from. And so anyway, we've got our recipe right in the comments, and we are really kind of excited to go about this because last year we did the same thing about the same time, but this year we've got a great twist for you, and we want to make sure that you've got both the easy way to do it and the more satisfying way to do it. So this is a lot of fun. Anyway, what are you going to need? Just about any kind of meat, just kind of about any kind of vegetable. If you're vegetarian, skip the meat. I hear that the Beyond Burger, brand actually does incredible sausage, so go there. Anyway, so you're going to be needing some sort of cream. We need to add a little bit of extra fat into these eggs. We are going to be needing all sorts of really great veggies. We're going to, of course, need eggs, and you know what, I forgot to bring up my recipe over here, so I'm kind of running a little blind, but we are going to also need some slawsome, so make sure you got that around. Or if you really want to have fun with this, add a little jambalaya or Greek instead of slawsome, and you'll change it every single time doing that, seriously. So I'm going to bring up my recipe right quick and make sure I've got my head on straight. Sometimes that's a challenge. Seriously. So there we go. I need to go. We're doing this spinny thingy right now. So anyway, you're going to need some sort of a saute pan. You're going to be needing a baking dish, my lovelies. And there is another secret that I do want to share with you. Parchment paper. Definitely a cool secret for this, because parchment's going to make sure that you can actually get this stuff off the bottom of the pan. Whoever has tried to make eggs in the microwave knows that getting the eggs off the bottom of your bowl is the hardest thing in the world. So parchment paper is definitely your best friend. Do not go for a wax paper because it will leave a taste behind. It'll taste like wax, and it's a little harder to get off of things. So if you're going to go the parchment paper route, go real parchment paper. Trust me on this. So, okay, I've got something coming up here. Wahoo! So anyway, so you're going to be needing, for every 3 eggs, we're going to separate our eggs today. We're going to be needing a 1/4 cup of cream. Now, if you're not going regular cream, go ahead and use coconut cream. It's great stuff. You're going to be needing a 1/4 teaspoon of Slawsome Veggies. Really great stuff. By the way, if you need anything, just go ahead and send us a message, make a comment, and we'll definitely get back to you. So you're going to need about 1/2 cup of chopped veggies per 3 eggs, and shredded cheese to taste. So let's get started. So tonight, this is so cool. I found these really cool aloha peppers while I was at the store, and believe it or not, this is less expensive than a regular bell pepper. And isn't that cool? It's red and yellow and just very neat. So I had to get that one for tonight. So what we're going to do is, my favorites are using, of course, peppers and onions. I will commonly use broccoli. We definitely love our mushrooms around here. And I also picked up some great tomatoes to be garnishing the top with, and a little bit of green onion as well. So this is a lot of fun. You get to be very, very creative with this, with your textures and your tastes. And if you want to do something like diced potato in this, go ahead and dice up your raw potato and then stick it in the microwave for a little bit until it's just about done. And then put it in your frittata and it will be gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So let's start chopping. So, anyway, so I'm going to be doing less than half of this pepper, probably about a quarter of this pepper per 3 eggs. But today I'm actually going to be using about a dozen eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and chop this on up. And why am I using a dozen eggs? Because this baby is going over to family for Christmas morning. Oh yeah. So chopping up a whole whole bell pepper for this is not out of line. Absolutely not when you're feeding a crowd. And this is such an easy make-ahead thing. It's absolutely amazing. So if you do want to make this ahead, go ahead and just put it in the fridge with a little bit of saran wrap on it. And then before you cook it. And go ahead and put it in the fridge overnight, then take it out and pop it in the oven the next morning. You're great. So the oven is going to be at 400, and we will want to actually get our oven preheated on this because, you know, things just do better that way, right? So preheat your ovens at 400, and we will be actually baking this for about 20 to 25 minutes. And so there's definitely an easy way and a more involved way. Tonight I'm showing you the more involved way. And the more involved way actually involves separating your eggs. So how do you do that? I will show you in just a second. So I've got most of my mushrooms already pre-cut, and I wanted to show you guys a really cool hack. So what's this? This is an egg slicer, right? Most of you, I don't know if any of you even have one, but you know, used for slicing eggs. What else can you use it for? Slicing mushrooms. Score! So what you're gonna do with this wonderful handy little gadget, you're gonna put your mushroom stem side up right in there, like so. And then just blink, you're done. Sometimes you got to push it through the tines and then just kind of peel your mushroom up off the tines. Grab your next mushroom, next, right over your bowl. There we go. I love taking shortcuts. By the way, if you peel and quarter your apples for certain little ones, or yourself and want slices, this is seriously a great way to do slices. Before I got my apple peeler quarter slicer combo, this is the way we used to do it for hundreds of apples every year. And I'll tell you, it really beats slicing them by hand by a huge margin. So there's my mushrooms, there are my peppers, and guess what? I've got something in the oven for you that you're going to really love seeing. I'm not going to turn my oven on right now because this needs to actually stay at my house for a couple of minutes, for a couple of days. But anyway, so go ahead and you're going to want to preheat your oven by now. And we're going to go ahead and cut our onion. Now, how do I cut my onion? Some of you have already heard this. I like to cut off the stem end, leave the root end, slice it in half. And when you peel it, this makes it a lot easier to peel than not taking off the stem end. And when you peel it, you leave the root end on because it makes a wonderful little handle, my lovelies. And that way you don't find yourself in as much danger of cutting your fingers when you're cutting your onions. It's awesome. Absolutely awesome. And my onion does not want to peel. Oh. Where there's a will, there's a way. Seriously, there is. So, go ahead and what I'm going to do, what I do with this, is I make slices vertically on my onion, and then, but not through the root end. But then I go ahead and turn it like so and make slices right across, and that gives me a really nice dice or chop without endangering my fingers. And it's absolutely wonderful. Just really wonderful. Okay. Peel the other half of the onion. Next time I do this, I may have these already chopped for you. Who knows? Organization. Wonderful thing. I'm a cook, not an organizer. Oh. Alrighty. So, and now I'm going to go ahead and take the very end off of my broccoli. So I've got a really nice head here. This is about half a head. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to basically make vertical cuts so that I can get the individual sprigs apart, and then horizontal cuts all the way up. And so that way you get small pieces without being tiny pieces. And you you don't get really huge pieces, you don't get really tiny pieces, you just get a good mix of wonderful broccoli flavor in there. And go ahead and make sure you hold the broccoli crowns with one hand nice and firm, but be real careful with that knife when you're coming through these because they are a bit wiggly. Okay, and then I'm going to do more vertical cuts, horizontal and vertical cuts here. So you've got a nice variety of pieces there. So cutting both directions so that you get a nice variety of pieces. And it is time to heat up our pan. And while that actually heats up and starts, I'm going to show you how to separate eggs. Now, we went over this a couple of weeks ago when we were doing eggnog, but we're going to go over it once more. Why? Because separating eggs can be an art form, a total art form. So, you guys cannot see what I'm doing. Let's, tell you what, I'm going to push this to the back burner. Aha. And bring this over here. Can you see that? Probably not. Let's go ahead and adjust you. There we go. Yes, you can see this. And so I've got 11 egg whites and 11 egg yolks. Now, you've got your egg. And normally you do this over a just totally different bowl, especially when you're just starting, because that egg yolk can get punctured, and sometimes you get egg yolk in your whites and they don't fluff as well if you've got egg yolk in your whites. But I'm going to live dangerously tonight and go ahead and open that up. You want 2 halves of the shell. Start pouring out your egg white just like that. It'll just kind of plop off. And then you're going to transfer the yolk to the other part of the shell gently. And you see this? You want that to come off. And so that's usually just transferring back and forth until it drips off just like that. And you have a separated egg. You've got your egg yolk right in here. Just plop it in with the rest of the egg yolks and you're good. So put that aside. Rinse my hands because eggs. Yeah, definitely eggs. And we have ourselves a hot pan and a spatula. Maybe I can raise you guys up a little bit, just a wee bit. Whoop, hello. There we go. And I think you can see. Let's go ahead and, there we go. Now, when this pan is nice and hot is when we're actually going to throw in our veggies. I've got a little bit of oil in the bottom. I've got some homemade country sausage here using some of our down home line country sausage blend. Now, this is wonderful stuff. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. And I'm going to crumble some of that in here with my vegetables, get my vegetables on the soft side, and then we go into the rest of it and have lots of fun with beaters and stuff like that. So we have a warm pan, and I'm going to move my oil around a little bit so it covers the entirety of the bottom of the pan, and I hear a little big bit of crackling there. And haha, I love that sound. Now I am making this for a crowd, people. So I'm gonna have to make a little more than I normally would for you guys. So for me tonight, I definitely need this bigger pan. When you're just doing something like this for one or two, you don't need that much. You need about a quarter, you need half a cup, maybe as much as 1 cup of vegetables total. And what I'm going to do is, with my sausage, I'm just breaking it up into small pieces, just dropping it in. And you can do this with diced ham, you can do this with bacon, you can do this with leftover turkey, you can do this with anything and any vegetables. Seriously, have fun. The more colors, the more textures, the more flavors, the better it is, seriously. When we used to be Saturday mornings were always the morning to have what we call eggs with stuff or stuff with eggs. And basically what would happen is we would empty the fridge of any vegetables, put them in the scrambled eggs, and most of the time there was more stuff than there was eggs. So right there, that is half a pound of meat. And go ahead and make sure nothing's burning there. Flip things over. And there's the broccoli is absolutely bright right now. Very, very bright. And this is gorgeous. So you guys have got to see some of the textures of it. Wash hands real quick. There we go. So you've got to see this. This is beautiful. Oops. There we go. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, the colors are so intense when you saute like this. They're really, really intense. The broccoli actually gets a vibrant bright green, and the peppers get a deeper orange and red, and it's just gorgeous. I'm going to turn down my heat. And our main goal right here is to get the vegetables softened and the meat largely cooked. That way, when it's all in the oven, you don't have to worry about undercooked meat, and the vegetables do not come out just really hard and crunchy when you're expecting something soft and really nice. And that goes very well with the texture of eggs. There we go. Much better. Whoop. I heard that. Now, we've got something else going on. So, I'm going to bring you guys back up here. See if I can move you around. There we are. Now, what are we going to do next? What we're going to do next is we're going to take care of our eggs. And this is doing very, very nicely over here. I think I can get away with taking it off heat now because the vegetables are starting to get soft. There's a lot of residual heat coming up through the stove because, it's a glass top stove, it's an electric stove, but we're also dealing with a cast iron skillet here. So a lot of residual heat will just keep those vegetables warm and help them just kind of get a little softer. So we can put that off to the side. And so what we're going to do now is, oh my goodness gracious, I forgot my mushrooms. Gotta get my mushrooms in there. Ooh, yummies. So that means I'm going to actually have to saute this a little longer. Oops. So anyway, I'm gonna let the mushrooms soften in here, and if I need to saute it a little bit more, I will do that in a minute. So what we need to do now is a couple of things. We need because we're doing 4 batches of this, we need a full cup of heavy whipping cream, and I've got myself a 1/2 cup measure here. So that goes directly into our egg yolks. And 1 and 2. Excuse me. Oh wow, I need something to drink. But anyway, so that's 2 of those, 1 full cup of cream because I'm doing a quadruple batch. And then we've got a 1/4 teaspoon of Slawsome Veggies per batch, per 3 eggs. That means a full teaspoon for what we're doing. And put that right into your egg yolks, right on top. And matter of fact, you guys probably want to go ahead and season this from a closer vantage point. Might help, just a wee bit. Nah. So go ahead and load up your mixer. Woohoo! And it's not going to be hard to do this. I mean, just be a little bit careful and let things mix. There we go. And there we go. I'm going to let the beaters drain a little bit. Where did that coffee go? There we go. Okay. And so the next thing we're going to do after those beaters drip for just a minute is we're going to beat our egg whites, and we want soft peaks here. One of the joys of going live. Okay, so that can now go off to the side and over to our egg whites. Now we're going to actually put our mixer at the highest setting for a whip, and your main concern here is getting as much air into those yolks as absolutely possible. So oftentimes, if your surface of the eggs is here, you don't want your beater straight up and down. You want them actually at an angle so they throw some of that egg white up into the air. You get a lot more aeration that way. And that is a really much quicker way to both whip cream if you're going to do homemade whipped cream, but also whip your egg whites and actually get them nice and foamy. So let's do that. So you're gonna, there you go. Look at that. There we go. Definitely want that thrown up in the air as much as possible. And so now we're just gonna sit here and let us do its work. Now you're gonna see your egg yolks go from transparent to a little cloudy, to a little cloudier, to a little cloudier, and eventually to white. And oftentimes people go, okay, what are soft peaks? What are hard peaks? What are you talking about? So as they turn white, they get stiffer, and that's what we're looking for. Soft peak is when you pull your beaters up off the surface. Some of the egg white follows it, but when you break that contact between the beater and the egg white, you get a little tip that then just kind of falls over. And that's a soft peak. Now, if you're whipping something to a very stiff consistency, then that is called stiff peaks. And what that looks like is when you pull your beaters up off of the surface, it brings a little bit of the egg white with it, and this peak stays exactly the way it was, and that's a much stiffer egg white whip. And so you're going to be finding that kind of terminology with both whipped cream and egg whites, that kind of thing. If you're going to do meringues and that kind of thing, and you don't want things to, and you want a really stiff whip on there, you're going to whip it a little longer. Okay. We are starting to get a little foamy. There you go. But we're not quite there. We still have kind of a yellow tinge to that, and that means that it's nowhere near done yet. So when it turns white is when you're just perfect. Getting a little bit better. Just a little bit better there. I didn't have this on the right side. No wonder it was taking so long. There we go. Now, one thing with egg whites, they get a lot more volume as you beat them. So you're going to have you're going to want to make sure that your bowl is big enough to deal with all these egg whites. Now this, you're going to increase in volume here. You're going to get almost all the way up to the top before you're done. And so do be careful of that. When I was doing a double recipe of this in just a 9x9 pan, it almost overflowed. So we are pretty close there. Now, if you do not want this to be nearly as fluffy, you don't have to beat the egg whites nearly as long. If you just want a little bit of body and a little bit of air bubbles in there, go ahead and something like this might be just perfect right here, but it is nowhere near stiff peaks. Nowhere near any peak. For tonight, I think this is going to be just fine. This is going to add just a lot of volume there. Yeah, as you've noticed, the egg whites themselves have multiplied in volume. They're probably about 3 times as large as they were. And the point of actually whipping your egg whites like this is really kind of fun. It actually makes your whole egg dish a lot more fluffy, a lot more airy, and kind of reminds you of a souffle. And if you've ever had a souffle, it's very puffy, very airy, very, very light. And if you've had certain kinds of like omelets, some of them are very, very fluffy and light, and you don't get just this folded over egg there. You get an omelet that just fills up a whole pan without being really dense. And that's what we're going for here, is to have a really light, fluffy frittata that somebody looks at and goes, oh my gosh, wow. That must be a lot of food, but it's not as dense and heavy as a lot of frittatas are. So let's try a little bit more. That's going to be good. Now we can start pouring in the rest of our egg mixture, and soon we are also, there we go. Look at that. Ooh, yummy. Now that is quite wonderful. Right there. That is our whipped egg mixture. And so instead of something just flat and lifeless, you get something with a lot of body to it. And now we need some cheese. Definitely put cheese in your frittata as well as on top. And what that does is it adds a ton of flavor. I do mean a ton. And growing up, we did do a lot of cheeses in our frittatas, in our scrambled eggs and stuff. Oh man, that's great. So, go ahead and mix that in. And we're good. Next, we need our parchment paper. And this is a huge hack for you guys. So I'm going to back you guys up so you can take a look at what else I'm doing. And yes, you can see this guy right there in the picture. Now what we're going to do is we're going to line this so that we can get this frittata out of there because Christmas morning. And there we go. You're going to want a piece that's a little bit bigger than your entire pan because you want this to come up along the sides as well. And I line the sides as well as the bottom. And so what I do is when I put one of these in, I go ahead and try to center it and then run my fingertips across the creases of the internal edges of the pan. And then just go ahead and pull some of these over the corners so that when I pour stuff in, it doesn't really wreck what I'm trying to do. There we go. Now, we're going to actually start off with our egg mixture and put that in and then drop in our saute. And we're doing that because, well, normally you're going to put a little cheese on the bottom and then put this and then put in all your fixings and then put in an unwhipped mixture on top. And what happens there is some things float, some things don't, and things are very dense. Well, this is not very dense at all. Woo! Look at that foam. That's great. Very, very foamy here. And so because it's foamy and things will actually drop at different rates to the bottom, you want to put your saute in at this point just evenly. And that way you get bits of saute all through the stratus of your frittata instead of all at the bottom. In an unwhipped frittata, it doesn't really matter. You're going to have everything on the bottom anyway. Now this, totally different story. So go ahead and pile that on in. Oh, look at that sweetness. That is just gorgeous. You gotta see this. There we go. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? So the next thing we need to do is we need some sort of a garnish here, people. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some grape tomatoes and cut them in half and use them as a garnish. We're just going to dot them all over the place. And so definitely cut them in half, put them uncut side up, and they will sink down into there. We're also going to take some cheese and put it on the top, and then some green onion. And it looks fabulous. Oh my gosh, it looks absolutely fabulous. Cut side down. Just go ahead and put those artfully arranged, my darlings. And just fresh tomato does amazing things to flavor here. When you do a tomato base in soups, it just brightens up the flavor so much. There's just so much vitamin C in there, plus other flavors that are just tremendous. So absolutely great way to brighten up a dish is to drop some fresh tomatoes down into something like this. Okay, and that's good for that. Now I've got some green onion, but let's go ahead and get the cheese out. Oh yeah, look at that. Woo. I am a cheese lover. I don't know about you guys. Go ahead and tell me in the comments who loves their cheese and who can't stand it. So, we're all very, very different, and it's good to know. So now I'm going to dice up 2 green onions. I always cut off the root end, and I always cut off the tips of the leaf end. And the thing with green onion is you want to do this at the very last, because otherwise green onion gets soapy. And you do not want soapy onions on top of things. It's just bad. So definitely when you do green onions, cut them the very last, just before you're going to use them, to avoid that objectionable soapy texture and taste on there. Okay, look at that. Is that gorgeous or what? Now, for a great surprise for you guys, what does this look like when it's done? It looks fantastic, and there we go. Look at that. Oh my goodness. And this, my friends, is dinner tonight. So, with your parchment, you can just lift that puppy right on out. But we want to slice it first. So, go ahead and give it a slice. Depending on how many people you have there. And, oh my, it did not get quite done. Yeah, I thought it did. But anyway, with this, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now, this did not quite get done, so I'm going to go ahead and take care of that in a minute. But in order to make sure that it is done, oftentimes a meat thermometer is really great stuff. So I would expect at least 130 on there, and I'm sure that I can go ahead and get you the correct temperature in a couple of minutes as I take care of that. But anyway, from our kitchen to yours, guys, go ahead, have fun with this recipe. It is so good and it is so yummy. It does not have to be hard. Go at your own pace by all means. Put what you like and what you don't, and leave out what you don't like. Keep things tasty, and let me know in the comments what kind of things that you're doing with this one.